Okay, so this session is all about how we can manage plastic waste. The Plastic Circular Cities is an attempt to understand the present solid waste management, namely plastic waste management, practices gaps across 6 cities of Maharashtra with 1 million plus population. This project is funded in its initial stage by Godrej Consumer Products Limited and implemented by 3 expert agencies. This session will be opened by Ms. Ahuna Ghosh, GM Godrej Sustainable Green, Godrej Consumer Products Limited. Followed by presentations by the 3 implementing partners who would be sharing their plan with us and giving us an insight into their approach, followed by a few words. Can we call upon our first presenter? Suraj is here. Why don't you all come up on stage? Actually, we would like to request Ahuna Ghosh, GM Godrej Sustainable Green, to open the session and speak to us about her project.
Thanks, Chirantani. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We can start, I think. So urban India generates nearly 42 million tons of solid municipal waste annually. To put that in perspective, that is equal to 35,000 truckloads of waste per minute. Currently, our per capita generation of waste has been between 200 to 600 grams. However, within the next 3 decades, this number is expected to double. Solid waste is a tricky issue with multiple interdependent and complex factors. So whose mess is this to clean up? The government? The government of India has not only acknowledged this challenge, but stands unparalleled in its ambitious approach with the solid waste management rules and PCR use. But waste affects everyone, and each one of us has contributed to these mountains of waste, so we all need to come together to clean it up. At Godrej Consumer Products, we have been running integrated solid waste management projects since 2016 and have worked with 12 municipalities across India in a public-private people-citizen partnership model. We have been able to successfully divert over 15,000 tons of solid waste away from landfills, but this is just a drop in the ocean. Through our work, we have learned that many more of us need to come together. Corporates can collaborate with the government and help build waste management infrastructure. In turn, local authorities can educate and enforce regulations requiring households to segregate waste. Moreover, corporates need to look at the entire value chain of waste management and not just focus on recycling. If we don't get involved in the ecosystem of waste, we will not be able to unlock the potential value of our waste and how to leverage that to run sustainable businesses. Today's session by ISC and our partner Sampurna Earth, Recity and Feedback Foundation is an attempt to help you understand our current solid waste management systems and recognize our collective responsibility. Our hope is to work together and together make India's ambitious vision a reality.
I now request Mr. Suraj Nandkumar of Recity to share his presentation with us.
So I believe I'm audible. All of you guys are after lunch. I hope I can retain your attention for the next quick 10 minutes in which I'll be sharing the incredible amount of hard work ISC and Godrej and all the team members here have put together to build this project to create circular cities across 6 different areas in Maharashtra. A very quick introduction to ReCity. We are a circular waste management company, and our purpose is to keep plastics in the economy and out of the environment. There are three areas that we particularly focus on. One is to arrest plastic pollution in cities. Second is to increase the recovery of plastics and circular material, bring it to circular economy. And third is to improve the traceability. So one thing we have to be very clear of is that the problem is waste management, and we specialize also in plastics, because at cities, plastic is not something that you get very easily from the material. There's a lot of investment that is made into recovering plastics from this waste as well, and the systems involved in building this kind of change are kind of very diverse. So ReCity has experience of working in, we are very fortunate to have many of our current supporters and patrons in the audience. We are one of the largest programs that are being implemented by Nestle, Godrej, PepsiCo, and many large brands who are here. And one of the things that we have also learned is the diverse experience in implementing across multiple geographies. Because every 100 kilometers, we have a new country that speaks a different language and different systems and different processes. Unless we have the capability to accept that reality, solving for waste management problem is almost impossible. So here I would like to kind of bring into you the two cities that we are focusing on. One is Vasai Virar and second is Mira Bhayandar in Mumbai. Now you have to understand that these are parts of a very large mega urban region called as Mumbai Metropolitan Urban Region, and these are also very aspirational, ambitious cities by themselves. For the sake of argument, we will just focus on one city so that you can get the numbers in place. We were kind of thinking, how do we work with urban local bodies that have access to so much capital? And still they are not very functional in terms of their solid waste management systems as well. What can we do in such cities? Can behavioral change? It's not that they don't have access to consultants. They have access to consultants, they have access to infrastructure, they have the access to the best quality people that are possibly available on this planet. What is the challenge that will excite them to participate in this program and build with us? So one of the things that we were actually focusing on is what is the cost of operations? So if you look deeper into the value proposition, if you look at Vasai Virar area, it has 16 lakh population. We're talking about 620 metric tons right now of waste generation. In the next 7 years, we're looking at in the ballpark of 1000 metric tons plus waste generation per day. Now you're talking about a municipal corporation is going to double its waste generation over a period of time. And if you look at the cost per se, they are expending right now, if you look at the total cost of municipal solid operations is 10 rupees per kilo. We had access to the financial documents and we went deeper into municipal finance to understand what is the value proposition for them to work with us. So when we looked into that, there were two very clear areas. One is the cost of collection and transportation and the cost of processing and disposal. Essentially in the absence of, and this is happening at a centralized level right now, where all the municipal trucks collect waste and dump at the centralized landfill, and the landfill is very high. And they're on the other side, they're spending money to do bioremediation to recover the land also to make it flat. Now we went deeper into this entire conversation and we started looking at, I'm sorry, it's not changing with this. Yeah. So we also looked at what is the revenue here. When the urban local body is spending 10 rupees per kilo, how much are they making in return? So here they are not collecting user fee, it is built into the property tax that they are recovering. And right now they are in the capacity of recovering in the ballpark of 3.89 rupees per kilo is what the recovery is, and the rest is subsidiary funding that is placed by the municipal budget. So we have a 7 rupees delta that is that our hard earned money that is going through property tax and other taxes is being spent to dump waste at the landfill. Now if you look at the revenue patterns also, the percentage of money recovered through user fee, through stamp duty and other things is also going to increase because a lot of effort is being put. And trust me, running a city of this scale is not easy. To put that many number of vehicles, that many staff at work and contractors and concessionaires is not really easy. But having built that, if we look at the viability gap, starting from 185 rupees, 185 crores right now of deficit, they are looking at an increased spending up to 272 crores per annum just for processing and dumping waste at the landfill. Now, how do we solve this problem? And the value proposition that we are willing to give the municipal administration is that what if we can add two revenue streams to our existing business model? So we built that value proposition saying that if we can imagine a day in which urban local bodies become or help the transition to circular economy, that is whatever is the waste, because if the material enters into municipal stream, it is the property of the municipal corporation. It can decide to do something, it can decide to give ownership of that material to the concessionaire, or it can choose to do something with it itself. So here is the value proposition. If these two revenue streams, one is automated material recovery facility and second is the EPR, extended producer responsibility. If these two revenue streams can be created in the municipal corporation, there is significant opportunity to raise capital here. Now, having said that, it is not rocket science. Municipal corporations run solid treatment plants. They run large-scale material recovery facilities also. In case of Indore, they are running large-scale biomethanation plants, and so many things are happening. This is only an incremental change. If this incremental change is absorbed into the municipal system, we can look at one of the largest revenue generators for urban India going forward. We built the model on this internally to look at what can happen. The model generates an IRR of 12% just by adding an automated material recovery facility, which is operational in Mumbai right now. Right now, Antony Lara runs a facility, and if similar facilities are operated at a centralized level. So here, when we saw this, and we came across a very beautiful document built by Godrej and Dasra, in which, this is the process of solving India's waste management problem essentially. On my right corner is the job of sorting of material, a centralized facility where in the ballpark of 1,000 metric tons of waste is unloaded. If the municipal corporation is able to sort it into different categories. Now you have to understand, there are two parts of the story. A landfill is mismanaged opportunity, but if you process the waste in the right price point, the right quality, right quantum, and the right specification, there are people willing to pay money for the feedstock. It is for us to understand what is the quality that has to be achieved for it to happen. Beautifully here, Godrej has put together a system in which if municipal corporation plays the role of sortation and collection, then there can be a PPP model in which multiple recyclers can be integrated, right from organic waste all the way to paper, which already right now happens in informal sector. Why can't urban local bodies take that ownership? Anyways, they have to tender it. They have access to land after bioremediation. Why can't these processes be built into our urban cities that have the resources, have the quantum, and have the muscle to implement it? So here are 5 areas. This is one open request to all of you also. If you are looking at expanding into newer cities, this is one of the opportunity that ISC and Godrej have put together to engage other partners as well. And in the due course of this presentation, the next quick 5 slides, I'll be sharing the opportunities in which you could co-invest into the project and build the project with us. So first is an automated material recovery facility. ReCity right now is building 400 metric ton per day facilities. We have the capabilities and the engineering capabilities to build such facilities and to operate them. And here is one of the solutions that we would be suggesting to the existing concessionaire of municipal corporations, where they are currently in the absence of source segregation. There has to be a solution today, no? Source segregation and other activities will happen over a period of time. But right now, what are we going to do with the 600 metric tons of waste that's been dumped at the landfill? Can the municipal corporation deploy mechanical sortation solutions where the urban local body has the money? They are requiring technical expertise. Can we invest into building technical expertise with the best machine manufacturers and implementers globally and provide them a technical report so that they can implement a tender and get the best quality solutions here? The second area is, you have to understand that municipal solid waste management 2016 guidelines requires waste management to be done decentralized. Now you have to understand, in urban India, where land is so expensive, for government to deploy land for new facilities can be challenging. What if we already have so many aggregators and scrap dealers are already functioning? They are for now currently tax paying entities and SMEs as well. Why can't the administration accept them and bring them on board and invest into formalizing them so that they can also participate in the decentralized process of waste processing? There can be multiple models in terms of doing this. As one of the examples is in Pondicherry itself, where the government has invested into a small material recovery facility. But when we did a survey, there are 85 scrap dealers who are working in very deplorable no facilities at all. So can we build this transition from scrap dealers to authorized material recovery facilities that are operating under the larger ambit of urban local bodies and helping them solve the problem in the first place? It's a very small money for the urban local body to invest into them and to create this kind of value proposition. The third value proposition is to invest into vehicles. One of the biggest challenges is collection in India. Even if a lot of entities are investing into behavioral change, one of the biggest struggles in big cities is waste collection in the first place. If waste is not collected, then what will happen to the waste? People will dump it in places that nobody's eyes is catching. And whatever investment that you make in IEC also goes to waste. So here is one of the important areas is that if certain donors here are looking at investing into infrastructure assets for urban local bodies, collection vehicles can be small collection vehicles can be a very great investment here to kind of showcase, to invest into slum areas and areas that are not currently accessible. And lastly is the behavioral change aspect of it. If you have an end of life solution available, investing into behavioral change makes complete sense. Is because there is a return of investment. You are aiding the urban local body for long-term sustainability. That is the first point, and especially in big cities, in the absence of a decentralized or a centralized processing engagement, it is going to be very, very difficult. And the last, the foremost part is accountability. If you are investing into companies as implementation partners like us, it is very important for us to give you return of value. We have to give you a traceability of the material. That is, the KPI should be how much of material has been processed into circularity. How many waste workers have been given better training so they could achieve the better outcomes? How much revenue or how much of sustainability have you bought into the cash flows of these facilities? Are you able to integrate forward partners to work with these kind of entities to create consistent revenue for running of operations of plants? These are bigger questions that need to be answered when the project is being curated. So from an impact perspective, a Vasai Virar project will achieve 620 metric tons. That the DPR, the baseline study that we are currently invested into, will give a strategic plan in terms of where can we intervene to show a very small scale, quick solution, but also how can multiple brand owners and the government also, how can we align with the expectations of the government and build a better value proposition here. It will also focus on 2,500 waste workers and will unlock in 2 revenue streams for the urban local body in either pilot form or in scaled form. So here is a summary of the areas in which brand owners can engage. Very clearly, from an environment protection standpoint, you can engage with us in terms of building systems, behavioral change and other aspects. Focus on informal sectors, specifically on waste workers and informal waste workers, and bringing them into the supply chain and creating value proposition for them to become entrepreneurs. Creating economic resilience by investing into informal actors right now, that is scrap dealers, and transforming them into more formal actors. And lastly, infrastructure, helping the government procure the best case infrastructure, because it's our job to give them the technical input and then it's their job to kind of build it. So here is the 4 areas value proposition that ReCity has to offer if you're investing into Vasai Virar and Meera Bhayandar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nandkumar, for highlighting how corporates can participate in the process. Now I request Mr. Ajay Sinha, CEO of Feedback Foundation, to present on the approach they wish to adopt for the research, the step-by-step collection process.
थैंक यू सो मच. मेरा नाम अजय सिन्हा है. फॉर अ चेंज हिंदी में बोलना चाहूँगा. इस तरह के वर्कशॉप्स में बहुत कम बोलने का मौका मिला है. महाराष्ट्र से जितना कुछ सीखा है हम लोगों ने, अगर आप लोगों ने देखा होगा रालेगांव सिद्धि, हिवरे बाजार, असगांव, ये सब ऐसा गांव है जो कि पूरे देश को दिशा दिखाया है. 94 to 98 IAS ऑफिसर्स का ट्रेनिंग करता था हम रालेगांव सिद्धि में. पुनः इस बार मौका मिला है कि महाराष्ट्र में कुछ ऐसा किया जाए 2 शहर में, पुणे औरंगाबाद, जो पूरा कचरा प्रबंधन का दिशा और दशा बदले. पिछले 6-7 साल से गॉडेस कंज्यूमर्स, गॉडेस प्रॉपर्टीज़, LIC हाउसिंग और अदर पार्टनर से लगभग 45 शहरों में, नायरा के प्रतिनिधि यहाँ बैठे हैं, लगभग 45 शहरों में कूड़ा कचरा प्रबंधन को समझने का प्रयास हम लोग कर रहे हैं। एक चीज़ तो समझ में आया है कि अभी तक का जो प्रथा है कूड़ा को उठा करके जो फेंकने का, आज मैं आकलन कर रहा था कि जितने भी टिपिंग फी लेते हैं एजेंसी कलेक्शन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन प्रोसेसिंग एंड ट्रीटमेंट का, लगभग 2500 रुपया पर टन, यानी 2.5 रुपया पर केजी, और लिगेसी वेस्ट लगभग 2 रुपया पर केजी, तो 4.5 रुपया पर केजी जो है हम पर केजी वेस्ट ऐड कर रहे हैं कूड़ा को फेंकने के लिए। तो ऐसा कौन सा एक दिशा हम बदले कि जो एग्जिस्टिंग सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट प्रैक्टिसेस है इस प्रोसेस को रिवर्स करें। उदाहरण के तौर पर अभी पूरा सिस्टम सेंट्रलाइज सिस्टम है, अगर पुणे में भी जाएंगे, औरंगाबाद में भी जाएंगे, सभी जगह लैंडफिल साइट है और 400-500 टन कूड़ा जो पूरा लैंडफिल साइट में फेंका जा रहा है। तो 5-6 साल से ये कर रहे हैं, क्या इस पूरे प्रोसेस को रिवर्स किया जाए क्या, कि कूड़ा जहाँ पैदा हो रहा है वहीं पर ख़त्म करो। क्या क्लस्टर अप्रोच में जा सकते हैं क्या डिसेंट्रलाइज मॉडल में जा सकते हैं क्या, दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल जीरो वेस्ट। तो क्या शहर को जीरो वेस्ट किया जा सकता है क्या। और दूसरा जो सबसे बड़ा परिवर्तन है जीरो कॉस्ट। अभी बता रहे थे इकोनॉमी ऑफ स्केल की बात कर रहे थे सूरज जी, इसमें भी दिशा बदलने की ज़रूरत है। अभी एक कॉरपोरेशन जो है लगभग 2500 रुपया पर टन कूड़ा के कलेक्शन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन प्रोसेसिंग एंड ट्रीटमेंट। ध्यान दें, जब मैं कहता हूं तो लोग मुझ पर हंसते हैं। 2017 से हंस रहे थे मेरे ऊपर, ये क्या बेवकूफ़ी वाली बात करते हैं आप, संभव है क्या ये। एक म्यूनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन जो है 1 टन कूड़ा को कलेक्शन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन प्रोसेसिंग एंड ट्रीटमेंट के लिए लगभग 25 रुपया पर टन खर्च करती है। जब मैं 2017 में जब मैंने कहा था कि ये जो आपका 2500 या 2000 पर टन है, ये क्या जीरो कर सकते हैं क्या, दिस व्हाट वी कॉल जीरो वेस्ट। यानी पूरा जो सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी, जो कलेक्शन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन प्रोसेसिंग एंड ट्रीटमेंट का जो कॉस्ट है, वो क्या वेस्ट स्ट्रीम के माध्यम से रिकवर हो सकता है क्या, थ्रू यूजर चार्ज, सेल ऑफ रिसाइकलेबल्स, सेल ऑफ कंपोस्ट, सेल ऑफ RDF, सेल ऑफ वैल्यू एडेड प्रोडक्ट्स जो हमारे वेस्ट स्ट्रीम्स हैं, हो सकता है क्या। तो जब 2017 में जब एक वर्कशॉप में मैंने बताया था, तो उन्होंने कहा था कि बोलने में तो बहुत ही आसान है, करके दिखाओ, तब तो समझे हम। भारत का पहला एक ऐसा वार्ड जो नथवावाला देहरादून म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में है, पहला वार्ड पूरे भारत का। यहाँ से 4 घंटे की जर्नी है, कभी आप लोग जाएं। 17,000 की आबादी है, यानी एक वार्ड 17,000, यानी एक नगर पंचायत से भी बड़ी है वो। इट्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइक अर्बन लोकल बॉडी। वो 2.5 साल पहले जीरो वेस्ट भी हुआ, जीरो कॉस्ट भी हुआ, और सिटीजन्स ने अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज को 33 लाख का क्रॉस सब्सिडाइज किया है। यानी अगर ये प्रोजेक्ट नहीं होता तो 33 लाख अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज को खर्च करना पड़ता। उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या हुआ। मैं चाहता हूं यहां पर कॉर्पोरेट्स जो है आपका रोल चाहिए। पैसे की ज़्यादा समस्या नहीं है देश में, हर एक अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज के पास पैसा है, लेकिन दिशा दिखाने वाला नहीं है कोई उनको। अभी नागपुर में मैं गया, नागपुर में उनके पास पैसे थे, बेसला पीपला में काम कर रहे हैं, वाड़ी मिल काउंसिल में काम कर रहे हैं। बोले पैसे तो है, क्या कर रहे हैं उससे। JCB खरीदा जा रहा है, डस्टबिन बांटा जा रहा है। क्यों बांट रहे हो, फाइनेंशियल ईयर क्लोजर हो रहा है ना, खर्च करना है। कौन वो दिशा दिखाएगा उसको, कैसे आप जीरो वेस्ट कर सकते हो। तो फाइनली वी हैव स्टार्टेड नाउ, नागपुर, बेसला पीपला वाडी स्टार्ट किया हमने। तो एज कॉर्पोरेट्स आपसे जो सहयोग चाहिए, टेक्निकल नो हाउ ट्रांसफर, ट्रेनिंग एंड कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग, मैसिव ओरिएंटेशन ऑफ द स्वच्छता साथीज, बिल्डिंग क्रिएटिंग चैंपियंस। कमिश्नर आज हम इंदौर में 5 साल से काम कर रहे हैं। लोग पूछता है इंदौर नंबर 1 सिटी 6 बार से हुआ है, कैसे हुआ है। नो, हमने नहीं किया है, सिटीजन्स नहीं किया है, वो तो बात की बात है। वो वहाँ का जो कमिश्नर मनीष सिंह और आशीष सिंह, जिला पंचायत का चेयरमैन, उन लोगों ने किया है। वो दिन रात लगाए, यानी एक पागल 100 पागल तैयार करता है। हमारा आपसे सहयोग क्या चाहिए? सब सहयोग चाहिए कि ऐसे पागल तैयार किए जाए। पागल मतलब वो पागल खाना वाला पागल नहीं, कमिश्नर्स, पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स, मेयर्स, म्युनिसिपल काउंसिल के काउंसिलर्स, इनको जितना हम ओरिएंटेशन, ट्रेनिंग, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग करें, थ्रू एक्सपोजर विजिट्स करें, ये जितने चैंपियंस के रूप में निकलेंगे उतना काम आपका आसान हो जाएगा। हम जब स्टार्ट करते हैं, शहर में जाते हैं, हम नहीं बोलते कॉर्पोरेट आपके पास आकर ना, हम अपने बूथ पर अपने शर्त पर काम करते हैं। आपको डिसेंट्रलाइज करना है तो बोलो, जीरो वेस्ट करना है तो बोलो, जीरो वेस्ट करना है तो बोलो। आपके पास ज़मीन है, ज़मीन दिखाओ, ज़मीन के लिए, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए आपके पास मतलब पैसे है वो बताओ। ये पूरे कंडीशंस पूरा करते हैं तब कहते हैं कॉर्पोरेट्स विल कम हेल्प यू। तो ये जो आपका सेकंड, बहुत में आगे बढ़े, तो मैंने जैसे बताया कि 2 उद्देश्य पर काम करते हैं कि शहर को जीरो वेस्ट करो और जीरो कॉस्ट करो। यानी 2 साल, एक शहर 3 साल के अंदर जीरो कॉस्ट हो सकता है। गॉडरेज प्रॉपर्टी लिमिटेड के पालसबाड़ी में काम कर रहे हैं, 60% कॉस्ट रिकवरी हो रहा है। मालनपुर में 40% कॉस्ट रिकवरी हो रहा है, 1.5 साल का प्रोजेक्ट है। गॉडरेज का ही एक प्रोजेक्ट बुधनी में है, 80% कॉस्ट रिकवरी हो रहा है, अभी 2 साल हुआ है। यानी 3 साल में एक शहर जो है जीरो कॉस्ट स्टेटस अटेन कर लेता है। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। जब भी काम करें हम गवर्नमेंट के प्रोग्राम से लाइन करें, स्टैंड अलोन नहीं होगा। गवर्नमेंट हैज टू ओन द एंटायर थिंग। उनको लैंड प्रोवाइड करना है, उनको पैसे देने हैं, उनको मैन पावर, फंड, फंक्शन एंड फंक्शनरीज के साथ कन्वर्जेंस करने होंगे। जब तक वो नहीं करते हैं, कॉर्पोरेट सपोर्ट विल गो इन वेन। मैंने देखा है बहुत बार कॉर्पोरेट, हमारे पास पैसे हैं आप खर्च करो ना, दैट विल गो इन वेन। तो 7 एज अप्रोच विल शेयर द पीपीटी। 7 एज अप्रोच में आप किस तरह से स्केल अप करते हैं, जस्ट इमेजिन, अलाइन किया हमने गवर्नमेंट के साथ। 2 उदाहरण देता हूं मैं आपको। नथौ वाला हमने किया across 72 urban local bodies. The same project is being piloted across Uttarakhand in a piecemeal manner, पूरा नहीं। गॉडरेज के साथ चक्राता किया, अभी फिल्म दिखाएंगे आपको। चक्राता जीरो वेस्ट किया, entire 62 cantonment boards have started using it, the same approach. Next. सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के प्रति जो मिथ्स हैं उसको दूर करने में आप दूर करें। ऐसे भारत एक ऐसा देश है जहाँ पे कि वेस्ट का हिंदी परिभाषा हमारे पास नहीं है, एक शब्द हिंदी का नहीं है हमारे पास। सेग्रीगेशन इज अ मिसनोमर। सेग्रीगेशन का मतलब मिक्स वेस्ट को अलग करना, कीप द वेस्ट अपार्ट। कीप द वेस्ट अपार्ट का कोई हिंदी शब्द है नहीं। तो हम अभी भी प्रिमिटिव स्टेज में हैं जहाँ तक सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट की बात करते हैं। बदबू देता है कि सोर्स सेग्रीगेशन नहीं होता है, एरोबिक से एनरोबिक में जाता है। तो ये सब जितने मिथ्स हैं, मिथ्स को दूर करने के लिए कॉर्पोरेट का सहयोग चाहिए, ताकि लोग कहें कि यू डोंट नीड लैंडफिल साइट। अभी भी लोग कहते हैं लैंडफिल साइट, अगर सोर्स सेग्रीगेशन होगा, जीरो वेस्ट विल गो टू लैंडफिल साइट। शहर विल नॉट लीड। आसाम गवर्नमेंट ने एक ऑर्डर पास किया, एवरी अर्बन लोकल बॉडी विल हैव अ लैंडफिल साइट। अरे, इंस्टेड ऑफ फोकसिंग ऑन सोर्स सेग्रीगेशन। नेक्स्ट। ये 4 लर्निंग के साथ मैं करूंगा, फिल्म में जाऊंगा। बिहेवियर चेंज के लिए बहुत से कहते हैं आप आईसी कर दो, नुक्कड़ नाटक कर दो, पैम्पलेट कर दो, पोस्टर कर दो। लेट अस स्टॉप ऑल दिस। नुक्कड़ नाटक, पैम्पलेट, पोस्टर, ड्रामा, वॉल पेंटिंग, होर्डिंग्स, बैनर्स, ये मास अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करता है, एंड अवेयरनेस अलोन डज नॉट ब्रिंग अबाउट बिहेवियर चेंज। अभी अयोध्या म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन बोला हर एक महीना एक होर्डिंग लगाओ। मैं दावे के साथ कहता हूं जहां पर होर्डिंग लगाएगा उसी के नीचे कूड़ा भी फेंका जाएगा। We have to enter into an intensive community engagement process, trigger approach. यहाँ पर बहुत से लोग ODF में काम किए होंगे, हमने हगंदारी मुक्त का काम किया था। How do we trigger people for change? पूरी उसका एक टूल साइकोलॉजी डेवलप्ड है। How do we bring about behavior change? तो उसको फोकस करें, बिहेवियर चेंज को करें। सप्लाई मस्ट मीट एंड प्रीसीड द डिमांड। अभी आगरा म्युनिसिपल कमिश्नर बोलते सिन्हा साहब बस आप आओ यहाँ पर और सोर्स सेग्रीगेशन करवा दो। हमने बोला ठीक है मैं करवा दूंगा, 3 महीने के अंदर करवा दूंगा। बोला हाँ आप सुना आपके बारे में बहुत, हम 90 डेज में कर देंगे। वो लोग करने के बाद कूड़ा जाएगा कहाँ? वो तो लैंडफिल साइट में फेंकेंगे हम, तो फिर यहाँ पे क्यों करवा रहे हो? तो यहाँ पे क्यों करवा रहे हो फिर? सप्लाई मस्ट मीट द डिमांड। प्रोसेसिंग जब तक नहीं होगा, ट्रीटमेंट जब तक नहीं होगा, गाड़ी पार्टीशन नहीं होंगे, जब तक वो सप्लाई साइड इन प्लेस नहीं है, क्रिएटिंग डिमांड alone will not bring about any change. That is the learning. You have to take it for, आप महाराष्ट्र में काम करें, कहीं भी काम करें, फर्स्ट यू हैव टू सेट द कंडीशन वेयर आर द सप्लाईज। ओडीएफ डेट में मानता था मैं, ट्रिगर करता था, लोग शौचालय बनाते थे, लेकिन सॉलिड वेस्ट में नहीं है। सप्लाई मस्ट मीट द डिमांड, सप्लाई हैज टू बी सीन। सेकेंड लर्निंग। थर्ड इज बोथ, लोग यूजर चार्ज नहीं देते हैं, लोग सोर्स सेग्रीगेट नहीं करते हैं। झूठ, नागरिकों के कंधे पर झूठ बोलते हैं लोग अलग अलग नहीं करते हैं। नागरिक टेलीफोन बिल क्यों पे करता है, बिजली बिल क्यों पे करता है, बस का फेयर क्यों पे करता है? क्योंकि दे गेट गारंटीड क्वालिटी सर्विस ऑन टाइम। उसी प्रकार अगर नागरिक को गारंटीड क्वालिटी सर्विस ऑन टाइम दिया जाएगा, फर्स्ट 3 मंथ्स में 60% लोग पे करते हैं। 100% नहीं करते क्योंकि फ्री में खाने की आदत है देश में। 60% करते हैं क्योंकि हाईली सब्सिडाइज कंट्री है हमारा। बुरा मानने की कोई इसमें बात नहीं है, वी आर हाईली सब्सिडाइज कंट्री। फर्स्ट 3 मंथ्स में 60% चेंज करते हैं। अगले 3 महीने में फेंस सीटर्स चेक करते हैं, 30% फेंस सीटर्स दूसरों को देख कर अपना व्यवहार बदलेंगे। 10% तो कुछ भी करो नहीं करेंगे, वो तो देश में उतना आज़ादी तो है हमारे पास, 10% को इग्नोर किया जाए। बट 90% मस्ट कम टुगेदर। If 90% come together, 90% will take care of the 10%. Why do we focus on the 10% all the time? And 10% नहीं करते इसलिए 90% भी नहीं करेगा, ऐसे लोग कहते हैं। तो ये है कि आपका है। और डिसेंट्रलाइज सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट आखिरी पॉइंट है, उसका फिल्म दिखाऊंगा मैं आपको। जब भी सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में काम करें, पूरे शहर को डिसेंट्रलाइज मॉडल पर ले जाए। 5-5 टन कैपेसिटी का डिसेंट्रलाइज मॉडल होता है, क्योंकि 5 टन से ऊपर जाएंगे देन यू रिक्वायर अच्छी पॉलिसी चेंज फ्रॉम द आपका पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड, उसमें मत जाए। 5-5 टन कैपेसिटी का 3-3 4-4 वार्ड को मर्ज करके मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ कुछ डिसेंट्रलाइज मॉडल। नेक्स्ट चलिए। तो सर इसमें आइएगा, प्रोसेसिंग एंड ट्रीटमेंट। इसमें इस तरह का सैनिटेशन पार्क बनाए, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 25,000 स्क्वायर फीट में बन सकता है। नेक्स्ट, ये आपका उत्तराखंड का है। ये पहले लीगेसी वेस्ट साइट हुआ करता था, विच हैज बीन कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ सैनिटेशन पार्क, जहाँ पर हमारे सोल्जर्स आते हैं, पीटी परेड होता है, ब्रिगेडियर साहब मीटिंग करते हैं यहाँ पर। जहाँ पर लीगेसी वेस्ट था वहाँ पर मीटिंग होती है, सेल्फी पॉइंट है वहाँ पर जकाता में। नेक्स्ट, नथवा वाला, एज आई सेड, नथवा वाला साइड 4 घंटे का जर्नी में जाकर देखे आप। वहाँ पर मेयर साहब वहाँ पर मीटिंग कॉल करते हैं, जो कि 6,000 टन कूड़े को प्रोसेस किया है अभी तक, 6,000 टन। बहुत से लोग कहते हैं ना, नहीं शहर घर के बगल में, कॉलोनी के बगल में नहीं बनेगा, कहते हैं लोग। नॉट इन माई बैकयार्ड सिंड्रोम, निम्बी सिंड्रोम कहते हैं, हमारे घर के पीछे नहीं बनाओ। ये मोहल्ले के बगल में बना है, देखिए चारों तरफ घर है। ये ऐसे मिथ को तोड़ने के लिए मतलब बनाया गया है नथवा वाला साइट। नेक्स्ट, ये आपका धनपुरी है, ये भी गॉडरेज के पार्टनर हैं जीपीएल, उनके साथ वेस्ट टू वेल्थ वंडर्स पार्क यहाँ बना है, वहाँ पर जाएं आप देखने के लिए। नेक्स्ट, आबू रोड राजस्थान का इज द फर्स्ट ऑफ इट्स काइंड। आबू रोड अभी माउंट आबू में स्टार्ट नहीं किया है, जिसमें कि ये कवर्स 10 वार्ड्स ऑफ द इंटायर आबू रोड नगर परिषद, जो जीरो वेस्ट हो गया है। जीरो कॉस्ट अभी नहीं हुआ है बिकॉज ऑफ द पेंडिंग इलेक्शन। अभी के बाद हम लोग जीरो कॉस्ट फोकस करेंगे इलेक्शन के कारण। यू नो द सैनिटेशन चार्ज, यूजर चार्ज हैज गॉट अ पॉलिटिकल एंगल टू इट ऑल्सो। नेक्स्ट, आगरा म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन 6 वार्ड को 600 टन जाता है 30 किलोमीटर दूर लैंडफिल साइट में, लेकिन 7 वार्ड को कन्वर्ट किया गया है जीरो वेस्ट में। नेक्स्ट, बुधनी नगर परिषद हैपेंस टू बी द कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी ऑफ द ऑनरेबल चीफ मिनिस्टर, करंट चीफ मिनिस्टर। अब बुधनी को देख करके हमारे 40 नगर पंचायत एमपी में दे हैव अडॉप्टेड दिस मॉडल बुधनी, वेयर 40% ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट इज बीइंग मेट। अभी इलेक्शन के कारण अभी आगे का कलेक्शन नहीं हुआ है। नेक्स्ट, मालनपुर। नेक्स्ट, पालसबारी जीसीपीएल गॉडरेज कंज्यूमर के साथ Why is a one of its kind project entire Northeast? ये है and the objective is to enter into entire Northeast because entire Northeast में landfill site है. This process has to be reversed and GCP was kind enough to support this program. Now this is being scaled up across. अभी रंगिया में करेंगे, नॉर्थ गुवाहाटी में करेंगे और जगह गैंगटॉक में जा रहे करने के लिए. The entire this model, every day 20-30 people come to see this Palasbari near to Guwahati Municipal Board. Next. जामनगर नायरा के साथ हम लोग कर रहे हैं, इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर भी है. अभी परसों हमारी फिर से मीटिंग है नायरा के साथ. हाउ डू वी स्केल अप दिस अप्रोच इन जामनगर? वी आर गोइंग टू हैव मीटिंग विद द नायरा टीम एंड कमिश्नर. नेक्स्ट. Panji में we have a 20 ton capacity of plastic waste management. कभी पंजी में आप जाएं, take the number, go and see how 20 ton of waste is being processed every day and creating a revenue of roughly 22 lakhs per month. पैसे से भी पैसा कम, कूड़ा से भी पैसा कमा रहे हैं हम तो. नेक्स्ट. झारसुगुड़ा ग्रामीण एरिया में है. लेट्स गो टू द फिल्म. नेक्स्ट. भुवनेश्वर में वी हैव मल्टीपल प्रोजेक्ट्स. जब भी भुवनेश्वर जाएं आप 5-6 साइट्स जाकर देखें कैसे जीरो वेस्ट हुआ है. फिल्म में आ जाए. फिल्म बस 2-2.5 मिनट का फिल्म है, देन विल क्लोज.
Nestled amidst the serene beauty of the Himalayas lie a charming hilly cantonment town in Uttarakhand, Chakrata. At an elevation of 2,118 meters, Chakrata has quickly become a major tourist destination. With a local population of around 5,000 and a constant footfall of tourists, Chakrata generates on average 2.5 tons of waste daily, along with an accumulated 3,580 metric tons of legacy waste. A challenge that needed a solution. That's when Chakrata Cantonment Board decided to act. They aimed for zero waste status in line with the government guidelines. In November 2022, partnering with Godrej Properties Limited through CSR initiatives, CCB joined hands with Feedback Foundation Charitable Trust to implement integrated decentralized solid waste management unit. Welcome to the bioremediation and biomining of landfill site and integrated decentralized solid waste management in Chakrata Cantonment Board, Uttarakhand. Let's take a look at phase 1, biomining and bioremediation. In this phase, the project will process entire 3,580 metric tons of legacy waste and to construct an material recovery facility MRF in an innovative concept of sanitation park. The presence of legacy waste can negatively impact the local ecosystem, polluting the environment and human health. Management of such waste requires a structured approach. Step 1. Sampling of waste. Sampling is done to understand the composition and quantity of legacy waste. This information helps in assessing the potential for bioremediation and biomining to help accelerate the biodegradation process. Step 2. Turning of waste in intervals. The turning breaks down the barriers, allowing for better contact with air between the contaminants and the microbial population, further facilitating the process. Step 3. Bioculture spray. A bioculture spray is a technique used to introduce specific microorganisms or microbial cultures to the contaminated site, which further helps in breakdown of legacy waste components. Step 4. Windrows. We create long narrow rows of waste to maximize air and waste interaction. And when methane and other gases are released, we spread the windrows to let in sunlight and air. Step 5. Putting waste into trommel or a separator machine. Here we start the biomining process by separating waste based on size, shape and density. Waste is loaded into the separator machine through a hopper or a conveyor belt system. The waste enters the rotating drum or a screen where it is subjected to various separation mechanisms by different size screening mesh. Step 6. Management of separated waste components. The recovered materials are sent for recycling either in a waste-to-energy conversion plant or any other appropriate disposal methods. Step 7. Site restoration. Once the waste management process are complete, site restoration activities are undertaken to restore the land to its original or an improved state. This concludes phase 1 of the project. Now let's take a look at phase 2, waste diversion and management. This phase aims to divert the flow of waste going into the landfills and to scientifically process upcoming 2,188 metric tons of daily waste during the period of next 3 years in a newly constructed MRF facility. After the bioremediation process, the work of construction of the facility started parallelly along the biomining process. The phase 2 management also encompasses intensive community mobilization through various IC initiatives. Feedback Foundation facilitators visit households daily, creating citizen groups and organizing events in pockets and institutions. They are sparking a change in how we view waste, emphasizing the 4R approach: refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. During these visits, triggering sessions are organized. Families and stakeholders are introduced to home composting and the importance of segregation of waste and the key points of Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. They learn to keep separated bins for dry, wet, biomedical and hazardous waste, as well as they are informed of user charges and economic benefits of the segregation of waste. The focus is on waste segregation at its source. Rallies were organized cleaning our streets, sensitizing citizens on ban on single-use plastic and spreading the message of cleaner, greener Chakrata. This project isn't just about waste, but it aims to bring a positive behavioral change in the community. A typical day begins with door-to-door collection of waste, both from domestic and commercial waste generators. Each type of waste is carefully collected and transported separately to the sanitation park for processing. Dry waste and domestic hazardous waste undergo further sorting in the MRF into different categories. Sorted dry waste finds its way towards revenue generation with the sale of recyclables. Wet waste is processed in pits to convert into organic fertilizer. What remains after processing becomes refuse-derived fuel, RDF, a sustainable energy source. We are turning the page on Chakrata's waste legacy, hand in hand with the Cantonment Board, Godrej Properties Limited, and the Feedback Foundation Charitable Trust. From waste to resource, this is our Chakrata's sustainable journey towards a greener Chakrata. Together, yes, we can.
Thank you, Ajay sir, for this very insightful presentation. It is always a pleasure to hear you speak. I now request Mr. Devarta Banerjee, Director Sampoorn Earth, to present on how material recovery facilities function and how corporates can get involved in the process.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, ISC, for organizing this so well, and happy to see so many friends and families. I guess waste management, we have been into this for almost 13 years right now, and many of the faces that we see are friends and families, and this kind of conferences are nothing but a family get together and get an update what other people are doing. So very happy to see you around and hope to build more friends as we go along through the day. I hope I can match up the energy that Ajay ji has. I'll try to be very specific about the things that we do and the project that we have in hand as well. Just to introduce Sampoorn Earth as an organization, as I told, we are 13 years old. It was started by 3 graduates from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. We studied social entrepreneurship and saw waste management as a very interesting space to work. So right now we have we also work on material recovery facilities. Ajay ji could give a very good glimpse of how material recovery facilities look like. So we have been doing that. We have also started recycling plastics with a special focus on the low value plastics. So in the last couple of years, with support of Unilever and Godrej and many other organizations, we have built recycling facilities where which can recycle 10,000 metric tons of plastic on a yearly basis. Apart from this, again, waste workers came in as a very important stakeholder into this. So we are deeply engaging with the informal waste markets and working with almost 1,500 plus individuals in the state of Maharashtra, Goa and Gujarat with the focus. We also work with brands and producers to do EPR, so we are engaging with them. We also do organic waste with biogas, composting, so those are also projects. But I guess we will focus a lot more about the plastics segment today. We are also working with individuals to raise awareness, and right now working with more than almost a million plus citizens, out of which many places we have been able to bring in digitized collection systems as well. Last year we processed more than 60,000 metric tons of waste and diverted from the landfills across our facilities. One of the projects in Goa, which I'll talk a little bit about as we go through the presentation, was also featured by Niti Aayog last year as one of the example projects for processing plastic waste. So while many people do plastic waste, why this project is so important and so close to our heart, I hope I can bring the essence as I go along. I'll just skip this and the brands we work with. I guess this is, my slides are not as good as Suraj's slides, how it looks like, but what I want to present here is the waste management cannot be seen in isolation, and we have to work right from the collection, how the waste is, before even collection, the segregation, how the waste is segregated, how the waste is collected by the municipal bodies or the other bodies, where it's heading to, whether it's the informal scrap markets, whether it's the municipal facilities, how those can bring, can all be integrated together, while the recyclable fraction can of course generate revenues. The non-recyclable fraction is also going to cement factories where energy generation is happening. So a very simple closed loop systems are available right now, but I think it needs a lot of initial support to start and kick off these projects. But good examples are already created in the country, and hope we can create more such examples as we go along. So just to talk about the plastic scenario in the country, India generates a fascinating almost 14 million tons of plastic every year at this point in time. I don't know whether we can imagine how 14 million tons looks like, but it's going to be 28 million tons. It's going to double in the next 5 to 7 years. So while we say that ban plastics, reduce plastics, it's not really happening. The way our consumption processes are, it's actually increasing. We have banned single-use plastic on paper, not in practice, but even if we are able to really ban the single-use plastics, actually single-use plastics only comprises of only 2 to 3% of the total plastic generation. So even if we are able to ban off those 50 micron packets and many other things, we really don't really cut across. We really have to build a very good waste management stable systems to do this. Luckily, India has a very robust informal waste collection system already. In India, it is estimated that almost 5 crore people is actually employed into this. I guess in India, most of the employment is informal in nature, as we know of. It's 90%. We said the textile is out of that the biggest employment generator. I guess the waste comes next to it, but it's very unnoticed because it's mostly happening in informal markets without the visibility. But in spite of that, India is already recycling 53% of its plastic waste, which is a huge number. While we see a lot of litter around and we see so much, actually the high valued waste, which is like PET bottles or the rigid plastics or many other industrial plastics, actually gets recycled up to 80 to 90%. Some categories even go beyond that, which is an incredible number. And probably even if we look at the European countries, they really don't do that. Even with a deposit refund scheme where you go and deposit, get coupons and all those things, no country has yet reached more than 70 to 80% recycling rates, which India is already doing for many of the high value plastics. And it's a huge employment generation point also. So it's very, and if you look at who is recycling this, the data says that 79% it's informal right now, while some 20% which is saying it's formal is also actually relies on the supply chain which is totally informal. So you have the waste pickers, waste collectors, the informal scrap dealers who build up the supply chain. So just to look into the supply chain, I think this is a very important slide for us when we look into business. Is when we look into the plastic, who are the people who is handling plastic, we actually can very logically divide into 7 distinct levels how the plastic changes hands before the whole circular things happen. Of course, the first level we know the waste generators, which are the households, the bulk waste generators, industries, they come at the first level. Then at the first level comes the waste pickers, the housekeeping staff who during the collection of waste take out. Even the municipal workers, when we see that the waste is being collected, most of the municipal collection trucks also has a bag next to it, जहाँ पे वो अपना डब्बा डुब्बी बॉटल कार्डबोर्ड ये सब लेके ही रिकवर करते हैं. So apart from that, we also have now small material recovery facilities or municipal facilities which are coming in, so which also act as a supply chain level. But after that, after the waste picker, it goes to the roadside scrap dealer, local scrap dealer जो उसके पास जाता है. अभी local scrap dealer जो है वो सब waste खरीदता है, वो paper भी खरीदता है, metal भी खरीदता है, glass भी खरीदता है, सब चीज़ें खरीदता है. Then that guy sells to an aggregator who works on specific categories. So somebody will only work on flexible plastic, somebody will only work on PET bottles, कोई सिर्फ aluminium can जमा करता है, कोई सिर्फ metal जमा करता है. वो aggregator के बाद भी डायरेक्टली वो रिसाइकलर के पास नहीं जाता है, मैक्सिमम चीज़ें ट्रेडर भी है. तो बीच में ट्रेडर आता है, फिर जाता है रिसाइकलर के पास जो इसका पेलेट्स, ग्रैन्यूल्स, फाइबर्स ये सारी चीज़ें बनाता है. फिर वो जाता है प्रोड्यूसर मैन्युफैक्चरर के पास जो उसका प्रोडक्ट बनाता है, फिर वो जाता है ब्रांड के पास. सो व्हेन वी डिज़ाइन वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट सॉल्यूशंस एंड सी हाउ प्लास्टिक हैज़ टू बी सर्कुलर, we need to imagine how all these people, all these 7 levels, at least 7, I can probably lengthen it even further, how all these 7 levels are actually being thought of and integrated into the project. And this is how we have been trying to design our projects as well. One quick point about the informal waste workers. There's lots of policies which have already been directing about formalizing them. Like the solid waste management rules talks about that, the plastic waste management rules talks about that, Ministry of Urban Affairs of course talks about that, everybody talks about that. But in spite of that, there is huge challenges in this. We mainly categorize them into social, environmental and financial challenges. While the social challenge is very obvious, we know we have children waste pickers working over there. We have people working without any insurances, without any health support and all that. The environmental challenges, we know many of them doesn't know कि जो waste usable है उसके बाद बाकी non-usable waste क्या करेगा. They burn that waste locally. Many of them actually have effluents, liquid, water gases going into the environment. And even if we look at the financial losses, the government doesn't get any taxes from it. And many of the materials which can actually be recyclable with a little support is always not taken out by the informal market. So वो सिर्फ सबसे हाई वैल्यू जो है, सबसे ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू जो देता है उसके ऊपर फोकस करते हैं, बाकी चीज़ों के वो फोकस नहीं करते हैं. तो हमारा जो अप्रोच है, इनको इंटीग्रेट करके, इनको फॉर्मलाइज करके सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स भी हम लोग बना रहे हैं. हम लोग बहुत जगह पे अभी गोवा में वी हैव स्टार्टेड अ प्रोग्राम विद द पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड, which again Godrej is supporting thanks to Ahona. So where we are creating a policy for the state of Goa, which I think will be a very iconic policy because we don't have a state policy, how the scrap dealers in the state can actually be legalized. So while we are creating a policy, we are also creating a program to follow that up, how we will handhold them, क्योंकि हम लोग तो अंग्रेजी में पॉलिसी लिखेंगे, उनको समझ में नहीं आएगा. Even if they understand, they need to be incubated, guided, how they can follow the environmental regulations, how they can bring the social norms, why this is important, how formalization can help them. So we are right now creating a policy with a handholding program for 800 odd scrap dealers in state of Goa, which is a very high number considering Goa has only 11 lakh, 12 lakh people, residents, but lots of industrial waste. So this kind of programs we are taking up. Talking about the project in hand, so we have been assigned 2 cities, Nasik and Nagpur, where we have started the survey already. So there are three different aspects we are looking into the survey. So one is the waste generation, how the house, so where we will be surveying the households, where we will be surveying the bulk waste generators, who is generating waste. But after that, as we said, the waste generation, उसके बाद collection कैसे हो रहा है, how optimally the municipalities are planning their routes, where the waste actually goes, what are the fractions in the waste collection is diverted, and then comes to the waste processing. So generation, collection and processing, all these three, including all the different stakeholders, all through the 7 people levels which I showed. So they are all stakeholders which we will be serving in into this project, and we will be hopefully be coming out with a policy. And while we do this, we have also been planning out a pilot project, how this can happen. So we have created a pilot project which is for 3 years, which will be a demonstration project in the cities, how all the stakeholders can be inbuilt. So we still want to set up a material recovery facility which addresses the waste, not all categories of waste, but the waste which are actually problem. हम लोगों ने जो देखा 53% रिसाइकल हो रहा है, बाकी जो 47% नहीं हो रहा है, ये मटेरियल रिकवरी फैसिलिटी वो सारे वेस्ट कैटेगरीज के ऊपर फोकस करके we will try to bring circularity. Luckily, in both these cities, we already have plastic recycling units that we have set up, both in Nagpur and near Nasik, Malegaon, which is kind of the plastic recycling hub for Maharashtra. We have our own plastic recycling units where we are focusing on low value plastic recycling, the 47% which nobody is recovering at this point in time. And this recycling facilities will also be seamlessly be integrated with the material recovery facility to develop circularity. So we want to set up a material recovery facility. We want to at the same time work with the citizens also to with a 50,000 people population where we at least achieve 80% segregation at source. We are also be reaching out to at least 500 odd waste workers and some scrap dealers into the legalization process. And apart from the overall documentation and traceability building, digitizing the whole system. So this is kind of a structure where I think which I explained mostly. So we are so a kind of a program. So just a ballpark number. We need support in infrastructure. We need support in awareness and education. We need support in social inclusion, and we need some operational support in the first 3 years till the project is self-sustainable. So one of the projects which we have made self-sustainable is one in Goa, which Niti Aayog basically supported and called as one of the exemplary projects across the country in the plastic waste management, where we have integrated 30 panchayats and multiple municipal councils through an integrated waste management program, where we have digitized the waste collection for 50,000 households, almost 3 lakh odd population. So we have placed QR codes at the source. Just a second, yeah. So we have placed QR codes. We are working with the citizens. We are working with the municipalities and the panchayats to see how the waste is collected. And then we also have social inclusion programs where we are right now working in Goa around 280 people, where regular health camps, SHG creation, registration with the government programs, registration with, so our government already has lots of programs, insurances and all, which many informal workers can actually directly access. So we have been working on those aspects as well. And that's what we have created, and we hope we can replicate with your support in Nagpur and Nasik. These two cities are very important in Maharashtra because at times in Mumbai, I hope, wish Suraj all the luck, but at times, Mumbai seems to be a hopeless city for me because with a 1.5 crore population in such small place, with 10,000 tons of waste being generated, with 4,000 odd crore rupee budget every year, siphoned in different ways, I don't know how the city will develop. And we think Nagpur and Nasik is very quickly headed towards there. Hopefully we don't lead to the disaster and start disaster management, but hopefully we can do things better, much quicker. Okay, thank you.
I am having some question. Can I ask the question now?
We will keep the questions for last. Yeah, we have now Ms. Natasha Patel. CEO, India Sanitation Coalition. She will say a few words.
Hi, good evening. I'm not going to take too much time. I just want to recap what my colleagues here have been speaking about. This project is actually a first of its kind that we've undertaken. And when I speak of this project, I'm not just talking for, I guess, 4 of us or the 5 of us here, but I'm really talking about for the country as a whole. To be able to undertake a project where we are looking at the end-to-end value chain of plastic circularity is something which is quite unique. Now, each of our 3 partners here have actually demonstrated this in different cities, different sizes. So I can't really say it's a first from that perspective, but where it is a first is where we are adding phase 2. And this is why, it's important for corporates that are wishing to come into this particular project to understand that phase 1, which we call household to MRF, and which was quite nicely portrayed to you by the 3 partners, is absolutely critical. It's much easier. I won't say very easy. It's much easier to look at phase 2, which is MRF to buyer, because that's where the real value proposition from a commercialization perspective resides. So large plastic consumers will actually be very interested to come into that phase. But if you don't get the plastic in its form to the MRF that can be recycled, then what is the value of the recyclate? That is the big question. And this is what all ULBs are struggling with, and this is what our 3 partners here are trying to help remediate. So this is why I call it a first of its kind project. For all the corporates in the room here today, please be aware that while we are not focusing only on asking you to come in for the end-to-end, from your perspective, it would be much better if you actually looked at the end-to-end project rather than just pieces of it. So very kindly, my colleagues here have said you can come and invest in individual pieces. Yes, that is possible. But I would say that if you really want to make a difference, come in and look at the end-to-end, which is household all the way back to buyer. That's really where the real value will come to you as an organization. Thanks so much. Please go ahead with your question. Yes, yes. Can someone pass the mic around? No, it's okay. It's just like that.
So my question to panel members. So while there's a lot of progress and thank you. While a lot of progress has been made on the plastic reuse, recycle, end of life, but still if we see the number, there's a lot of difference. And if we especially refer about the EPR scheme. So just a question to you for my understanding, like when we talk about the traceability, so in terms of percentage, what is your experience that how much percentage plastic is traceable under EPR scheme? Because we know the production, what happening to plastic versus what is going back. It's like what is produced versus what is going back into a cycle. So what is the percentage traceability? And the second one, like what is the use if we say that I'm having 50% traceability or 60 or 70, how much is going to use into recycle as well as end of life?
Okay, so I guess these numbers are right now they're in the CPCB portal. We have to check the latest numbers, but they have divided into 4 categories of plastic. So category 1 and category 2 is recyclable, flexible and rigid plastics. Category 3 is non-recyclable plastic, which is mostly going for end of life, and category 4 is bioplastics. So I guess last year category 3, which is end of life solutions, was around 1 million tons is the total number, while category 1 and 2 was around a little less than 2 million. So I guess 3 million tons of plastic has been reported onto the CPCB portal as per the last year, out of the 14 million tons of generation at this point in time. But at the same time, we have to take these numbers with a not a pinch, with a bucket of salt, because there has been a lot of forging of data and in the initial stages which has been happening. So this, though it's been reported over there, I guess 30 to 40% of the numbers are actual numbers. 70% has been not good, like not right data still. And recently, if you're following the updates, CPCB has also called out many of the recyclers who have been generating these fake certificates and have actually fined them and all that, which is, I guess, which is already 50% of it is identified. So I would say right now what has been reported rightly is around 1 million tons out of the 14 million tons of plastic that we are generating. So and that is very obvious because most of the waste is still driven by the informal markets, which are yet to come under traceability, and we really need to work very hard to bring them under traceability, as well as make sure we communicate why they should come under traceability. Actually, when EPR was developed, it was developed as a policy which actually supports many of the informal players to actually set up formal businesses or support the non-recyclable waste disposal cost. But there has been hiccups. I guess it's been just 4 or 5 years till the policy has come in. We hope that we get stronger and better policies as we go along.
But surprisingly, there is a lot of gap. But still,
Yes.
the demand of the credits,
Yes.
to compensate that one. Say, I am producing 100 tons, and I have to compensate it with the help of credits in system on CPC portal. But the demand of credits is still not there in the market. I don't know, how is this entire mechanism is working, or we efficiently use the EPR scheme, which has a lot of advantage in a circularity.
Yes.
So your
Yes.
views on it?
Yes, I guess India is a very nascent stage at this point in time. EPR, in the way that it exists in the country, is very unique, and I guess many of the countries are actually looking into India how this will be developed. India has been experimenting this, how to do this, and we are seeing policy changes every year. So, for example, even in the last year, the medium and small enterprises were excluded from the EPR. This year they are saying that Reliance or somebody who is distributing the granules have to take that up. So I guess a big chunk of the MSMEs is already excluded, and EPR has not been really taken seriously even by while the micro and small enterprises are excluded, the medium ones are not. So medium ones have not really taken that into account very well. So while now with the digitized system and all that, it's coming into play where they are being identified. But till now, it has been only been the MNCs and the big brands who have been taking up EPR, that's why the number is so small. But as it becomes more traceable, last year only we had the online portal which came up.
Okay.
So we hope that the demands will increase sometime soon.
Thank you.
So looking at our status, we are handling roughly 800 ton of waste per day. And we focus on total waste. So dry, wet, domestic, biomedical, domestic HRS waste. So in terms of plastic waste, out of total waste, roughly 4% is plastic waste. We have also monitored where the plastic goes. We have seen that we can trace up to 70%. We know where it's going, which is the buyer, whether it's reaching to IKEA or not. 26%, there are no buyers as such. So we have to send it to RDF. Either it's a cement factory or bricklaying factory. So that covers roughly 96-97%. The 4% at some places, for instance in Palasbari और ये जहाँ पर PVC polyvinyl chloride, उसके नहीं है हमारे पास. थर्मोकॉल के बायस नहीं है, प्लास्टिक नहीं, लेकिन थर्मोकॉल के बायस नहीं मिलते हमें. तो 4% 5% करे क्या है, उसको स्टोर कर रहे हैं. टू से दैट आप रिसाइकलिंग का हमारा पूरा सिस्टम डेवलप है, इज नॉट अ राइट वे, इज नॉट अ करेक्ट पिक्चर. रिसाइकलिंग हैज़ टू ग्रो नाउ. आपको मेजर शहर में रिसाइकलर्स मिलेंगे. In terms of total cost recovery, just imagine, PET bottle, if I sell it to recycler at Panji, I get a price of 26 rupees per kg. Same PET bottle, I sell it to, let us say from Palasbari, I get 12 rupees per kg. 14 रुपया का नुकसान है. Because here at Palasbari, I am sending it to Swakta Sathi or to aggregator to second grade aggregator to third grade aggregator, and the recycler, it reaches almost 15-20 days.
we need to develop recyclers at the entire nook and corner of the country. We have to make it online. कंपोस्ट का भी नहीं है, सेल है. कंपोस्ट का पॉलिसी भारत सरकार ने चेंज कर दिया है. एक सप्ताह बोलते हैं कि हम ऑर्गेनिक कंट्री करेंगे. अगर ये विदेश में रहता तो मेरा कंपोस्ट जो है 20 से 25 रुपया पर केजी बिकता. यहाँ पर आई एम नॉट गेटिंग अ बायर फॉर 12 रुपया 14 रुपया पर केजी. सो ये एक दूसरा मुद्दा है. आई डोंट टू डिस्टर्ब दैट. मुद्दा इज डिफरेंट, बट दैट इज मेरा दुखता हुआ नब्ज है, जिसमें आई थिंक डिफरेंट वर्कशॉप आपको करना पड़ेगा.
That is a great segue.
आपने जो सवाल पूछा एकदम सही सवाल है आपका.
That's a great segue for me to enter, if I may. All right. I think based on what has just been said, I need about 2 minutes of indulgence as a plastic fan and as someone connected with the ISC. Firstly, 2 words used today a lot: lower value, informal. I think both these need to change, along with everything else that you mentioned, because that has price determination, it has various other aspects. I think as a group, since so many corporates are here, I think some kind of norms on how to travel on this would be very useful. The third thing is disintermediation, you know, the 7 levels that you talked about. I mean, every industry has had this, including financial services, which you guys, a lot of you come from 40 years ago. So informal to formal, disintermediation, price realization are 3 things that are going to determine how this goes in the next decade. Because without that, you can't get demand. The other thing I'm going to ask, actually, a couple of things quite specifically, which if you don't mind. Suraj, you talked a lot about digitization, etc. You never mentioned anything about quality, gradation, source identification, QR codes. Is that in the plan at all for you or for India or anybody else? We'll take all the questions together. Ajay, you know, you talked about 0 cost in 3 years. What about profitability? It's a very profitable business. The sanitation parks, can they be branded? You talked a lot about waste to wealth. What is the wealth? I mean, what is the vision on the wealth? Because you said, humko vision chahiye. And since feedback is working on that, it would be lovely for you to look at that. And Devabrata, when you talk about waste pickers, etc., a huge issue globally is the ethics of the waste pickers. There's a lot of child labor, a lot of stuff like that. Is anybody in India working on that in terms of what price are being paid, what kind of safety is being done? It's the same thing as manual scavengers. Mind you, they are cousins. That's why for the ISC, there's a lot of relatability in these 2 things. And the third thing is, you know, you said 2 to 3% is for plastic use, is single plastic. Equally, less than 1% is for brands. And, you know, I think that the segregation of who's using the end use, and is it going into fashion or is it going into roads? By the way, all my plastic purist friends believes that taking it end of use, what we call, is a sure way of ensuring that the road releases plastic fumes for the next 30 years. And they say it's a brilliant way of keeping plastics in the environment and not taking it out. Okay, you talk to any plastic purist, they're furious about India using it for cements and roads. So it's just something to think about. You know, I think that we are still at baby steps on solutions, but informal to formal, the power of coalitions, institutions, which is where ISC can play a role. I must congratulate Godrej. It's so heartening. I didn't know anybody in India was doing this sort of stuff. And here I will end with a personal anecdote. 42 years ago, I interned with Nadir for my summer project, 44 years ago. And you know what the project was? It was recycling of mango kernels as a cocoa butter substitute for soap. So I've gone from slum to slum in Bombay, talked to mafia leaders. The sad part is 44 years later, it's still the mafia running this. And I think that somehow, informal to formal, part of institutions, part of coalition, part of price recognition, part of end use, tracking. We say traceabilities are all words we throw. India has 0 traceability. Okay? If you tell me you pick up a piece of plastic from Goa, all right, traceability means you should tell me that it's in a Birla high fashion garment. That's traceability. What we talk is rubbish. So once we know where we are, if we don't know where we're going, any road will take us there. I think today is about starting a journey, knowing where we are, and then determining what baby steps to take. How do we crawl? Then how do we walk? Then how do we run? All right. Ajay, you spoke a lot about vision. All you guys, firstly, I have to admire you. It's a damn difficult thing to do. Okay. Having said that, okay, nobody asked you to do it. You decided to do it. Now let's do it and step up the pace. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Natasha.
So thank you so much. Regarding traceability, I think I have a different take on this. मुझे पता है आप सहमत नहीं होंगे. सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में जो एक बेसिक चीज़ जो मैंने सीखा है दैट इज क्लोजिंग. हम एक चीज़ जो हमने सीखा है वो सीखा है क्लोजिंग द लूप. एक मंत्र सीखा है वो है कि कूड़ा जहाँ से आया है उसको वापस भेजना ही कूड़ा कचरा प्रबंधन है. दैट इज व्हाट हिंदी में कहे क्लोजिंग द, अंग्रेजी में क्लोजिंग द लूप. अगर गीला कूड़ा आया है खेत से तो खेत में ही वापस भेजना है. प्लास्टिक कहाँ से आया है? फैक्ट्री से नहीं आया है, पेट्रोकेमिकल से आया है, तो पेट्रोकेमिकल में ही भेजना है. अब उसको अगर आप उसको पैकेजिंग मटेरियल में यूज करेंगे, रोड में यूज करेंगे, इट विल कम बैक टू हाउंट अस. दैट इज नॉट क्लोजिंग द लूप. इट हैज टू गो बैक टू द नेचर. लेकिन ये नीति आयोग मानेगी नहीं मेरी बात. वो रोड में गडकरी साहब रोड ही बनवाएंगे उससे. तो ये है कि ये पेट्रोकेमिकल में जाएगा. टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे पास है. इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ पेट्रोलियम ने टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलप कर दिया है. उसमें आपका 30% आपका गैसोलीन और 70% डीजल निकलता है. वही टेक्नोलॉजी सब लोग प्रमोट करें. हमें फिर पेट्रोल डीजल निकाले हम और उसको हम काम करें. सूनर और लेटर दिस इज द ओनली टेक्नोलॉजी that will help us to have a complete control over plastic. उसके अलावा we don't have any other option.
Thank you, Ajay ji. Maybe Suraj, you and Vikrata can also answer the questions that were posed to you.
So, quality and traceability are very interlinked. It's like tally. In a company, you need to have softwares to run your accounts and HR and different processes, right? So if you're focused on in the business of delivering quality product, traceability becomes inherent to your business function. So if I have to invest into a collection system and I have to know where the material, I have to pay the person, no? So if I'm distributed across 40 cities right now in India and we are doing a daily cash flow of in the ballpark of 1.5 crores of procurements. So in that case, I have to know where the material has been coming from. So these are all the USPs in which you could potentially monetize. Yes, we have an entire system where we right now export. I'm telling you, we have QR codes at the doorstep. It's called smart QR codes. Right from the doorstep to a finished product in Tesco in UK, we are able to provide traceability to the pet punnets right now. And we do 3,200 tons per year on this. So what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to traceability, these are like internal operating systems. Some companies have the governance system, some companies don't. But traceability is actually to measure the unit economics of your business. That's the health of your business, number one. Second is quality. A lot of people are into recycling. Very few, I'll tell you 99% of India does not focus on quality at all. Because closing the loop in plastics is getting into recycling. That doesn't solve anybody's problem. You can take a good quality PET bottle or Tupperware kind of material and make it into something nonsense, buckets also. So quality is the biggest challenge. A lot of people are working with low value plastics, but they're making something so bad, they don't even wash it. They directly make garbage bags again. It's even worse. It's actually more carcinogenic to have that bag in your house than to, and it's better off to not to recycle it at all. So there are, while we speak about quality, it's very important to understand who's your customer. There are customers in mechanical recycling. There are in different types of plastics. There are customers in chemical recycling, and there are customers as alternate fuel resource as well. There are systems in which you can, because coal is more difficult than plastics, because the calorific value of plastics, if segregated and processed well and shredded well under 30 mm, has a customer. So we have to have laser focus on who our customer is, and thereby we can deliver quality, because if recycling is a very mechanical process, what goes in is what comes out, and the rest of it can be streamlined. The biggest challenge in India right now is how many people have access to good quality feedstock that can improve the, like Ajay ji was saying, can it go back to the original form, bottle to bottle recycling? That is the biggest challenge in India. And trust me, of the last 1 month, a number of conversations I've had with brands, everybody was saying that we don't have a problem. I mean, we can't import this material. We have to use it within India. India's biggest challenge is to have food grade material available for recycling. And that is where the next 10 years is going to be invested into in India, into better collection systems. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess most of the points have been talked about. So in plastics also, so just to add, so we call it recycling, downcycling, upcycling, and most of the plastic in India is actually downcycled, which I guess Suraj told, Natasha also touched on, where the quality of the feedstock becomes so important. If it's well segregated at source, we can make good stuff out of it. If it's not well segregated, then it will be downgraded. And so, yes. Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess upcycling, but the upcycling, the markets are very limited. I would say recycling is a better possibility. Upcycling, one of the examples which I can think of top of my head is where PET bottles are being used as the threads which is used for 3D printing. So where they use some zinc alongside with it and make a compound which can be used as the threads, because 3D printing is becoming popular, so where you can print with that. So that's an example, or even bags made out of plastic, which many of those small organizations, NGOs are just trying to do that. So those are examples of upcycling, but recycling is very obvious. If the waste is collected well, recycling is very possible in the country. Just the informal market point which you also said, sir. So I guess it's very difficult to expect that there will be immediately we will see that Fortune 500 companies or that kind of companies will come out of the informal sector. But India has led ways for formalization in many ways. One of the person I'm biggest fan of is Verghese Kurian, who revolutionized how the whole dairy industry has been transformed. So I think a cooperativization is definitely one of the ways which can take this forward, because many organizations have established this. There has been examples of organizations which have collectivized waste workers and helped them to develop businesses where they have not felt the need to put their children into waste anymore. Their earnings have increased, their overall understanding of the world has increased, where they don't see the child as one more hand picking up waste, but as somebody who doesn't need to be there. So I guess the cooperativization is a very good way which we need to work on. Yeah.
Just one point to add here. When you speak about traceability, right from source to the end of and back, who's asking this? So the customer right now does not want it and is not willing to pay for it. Every customer in India right now. So that is where the point is. So if you are going to make that information available, there has to be somebody to give it to also, right? As an organizational DNA, you maintain internal governance and checkpoints. That is one thing. But right now, there is nobody willing to pay for it. Yeah.
Right. If there are no more questions, then maybe.
So one question. See, we are talking about so much models and the achievements on the plastic waste management and the percentage of non-reusable plastic, etc. Seeing the impact, what is the kind of advocacy we could able to do at the municipal level or the corporation level? How far they could able to understand this entire process, and what is their action about it?
Sorry, your question is what kind of advocacy can we do at the municipal level?
Yes.
So I'll quickly talk about it. Ajay ji can add. So I guess one of the things which I like in the waste management rules right now, they are pretty scientific at this point in time, like few things here and there. But the solid waste management rules or the plastic waste management rules or the new policies by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, they are actually decently thought of. And I guess अगर municipality वो खुद एक दिन पढ़ लेता है ना, so बहुत बड़ा document नहीं है, I guess that will immediately help them understand a lot of things. But the thing is that they don't read, they don't really want to read. So it comes to organizations which are forced to educate them. But I guess here NGT and other people are also playing a good role in putting up notices, finding them, which they're forced to read. But it's not rocket science anymore. And we are seeing that things are changing pretty fast as well at many places.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of difference in the last 3 to 5 years of my 13 years of journey in waste management.
So, sir, since you are from Karnataka, so how do we scale up? How do we mobilize the corporation to do it? The latest example is APMC, Agriculture Producer Corporation Society, Karnataka. There are roughly 160 APMCs in Karnataka. So we had mooted the idea to why not to make the entire APMC zero waste and zero cost. How do we do it? So I went and met the director at Bangalore, told him this is what we are doing in urban. 90% of your waste is wet waste. You have the land. APMCs are the biggest owner of the land in Karnataka. So he said, can you do it? Well, yes, we can do it, but you have to create infrastructure. So I said, you have to demonstrate. Seeing is believing. I said, okay, let us pick up one APMC. We picked up Dharwad APMC near Hubli. Hubli happens to be Asia's second largest APMC. And we created Dharwad APMC. Work still progress, but almost zero waste. Then what the director did, invited all the secretaries of the APMCs at Dharwad. And we had a one-day workshop from morning to evening. Oriented them, trained them, made all technology transfer, took them to the site, saw the entire process, SWM value chain, collection, transportation, processing and treatment, how the vehicles have been partitioned, how the processing is being done. That is a long driven process to make the commissioners realize how to bring about change. It's not a very short term, it's a time-taking process.
Thank you so much. This was the last question of the day. I'd request Ahona to close the session.
I think a lot of what I'm going to say has already been spoken about, so just think of this as a summary. And I want to end with giving the buyer's perspective as a corporate. As a corporate, we are at the forefront of an evolving narrative, which pivots on the axis of sustainability as well as responsibility. And the battle against plastic waste is actually a call to action. It's a challenge for us to innovate and an opportunity to also lead. India's recent legislation on banning single-use plastics and the new stringent plastic waste management rules of 2022 show India's commitment to environmental stewardship. The rules ask companies to collect 100% plastic they put out and recycle 60 to 80% of the waste based on plastic category. The rules also demand to reuse 10 to 60% recycled plastic in packaging based on plastic grade category. The focus on PCR is not just about compliance, it's about the transformation into sustainable packaging. But legislation is just a starting point. While the rules emphasize recycling and reuse, they overlook a crucial point, which is the reduction of plastic in packaging. The oversight is not trivial. In the absence of directives to reduce plastic usage in packaging, it's upon us to lead by example. At Godrej Consumer Products, we have reduced our plastic packaging intensity by 17% since 2017 and are on track to achieve a 20% reduction by 2024. It is an internal target that goes beyond compliance, and we believe every company should aim for it and build it into their design. Because reduced plastic in packaging will in turn reduce the burden of compliance. A great example of how we reduced our plastic intensity is our Goodnight Gold Flash Liquid Vaporizer Mosquito Repellent. We replaced the non-biodegradable imported wick in the product with a biodegradable variant. We developed an indigenous wick that could deliver the need at better cost and lower environmental impact. After evaluating materials such as glass, wool, carbon fibers, plant fibers, and low-density materials like wood dust and silicon dust, we narrowed on a specific grade of plant fibers that have better thickness and tensile strength compared to others. This innovation is 70% cheaper than the imported wick and reduces our plastic usage by more than 300 tons a year. Another example is our Magic hand wash that uses just half of the plastic in packaging compared to regular hand wash refills. This not only signifies a substantial reduction in plastic use, but also contributes to low logistical costs and low emissions. Magic has further democratized liquid hand washing with its affordable price point starting at just ₹10. Besides these initiatives in line with PCR regulations, we aim for our rigid plastics to be replaced by 30% recycled plastics by 2026, flexible plastics to be replaced by 10% recycled plastic by 27, and multi-layer plastics to be replaced by 5% recycled plastics by 27. As we venture into the details, I'm just summarizing the key challenges which we've already discussed. First is perhaps the biggest paradox of plastic recycle and the main issue of supply and demand of PCR in plastic packaging. Even as more and more companies are recycling and the EPR regulations, the recycled plastic is not making its way back to packaging. It is being used to make roads, to your point, sir, pavements, sent to cement kilns, which the government is coming down hard on now, and is even being made into furniture. However, this diversion is a silent acknowledgement of a system that recycles not to reuse its original form, but to just repurpose. And this is where the biggest gap lies in the supply and demand of PCR. The second challenge is of quality. Over 65% of plastic recycled is only high-grade quality plastic. The low-value plastics are never even picked up by rag pickers, and they never will be picked up from the landfills to be recycled. Even if somehow we manage to segregate the low-value plastic, it will have contamination and presence of other grades, which is processed during recycling. So when this is molded, it will not be in uniform quality and will vary from batch to batch. This is a tremendous bottleneck in production quality for all companies. Moreover, we don't have any validated certification system in place to vouch for the quality and content of PCR. At the moment, it remains a guessing game. The third crucial challenge is the mechanical recycling process. Every time you mechanically recycle plastic, it weakens the life of the plastic because of the polymer chains keep breaking down. So when you buy recycled plastic, you have no clue how many generations of recycling it has gone through. And there will be a mix of generations when recycling. There is no way one could trace which generation of PCR they are using, and it would be impossible to get standard quality output each time. Chemical recycling could be an answer to this, and Suraj has a better insight. We were chatting about it a little earlier, because it breaks down the plastic to its original polymers, and we can theoretically achieve a purer, more consistent and recycled product. However, the technology is still in its infancy, grappling with high costs, energy concerns, and so far we don't have a clear picture of its life cycle environmental impact. And the fourth challenge, which we've already discussed, is creating a seamless and transparent linkage or the issue of traceability from sourcing plastic to processing. The biggest concern of buying PCR plastic continues to be its high cost, and the costs will continue to remain high and unsustainable until the waste generators, which is all of us, shoulder some of these costs. Because once plastic waste misses out on being segregated at source, it simply ends up in the landfill. The solution lies in collective action and at-source segregation. Using an approach founded on technology, transparency, and awareness, we will be able to more accurately grade plastic and create a formalized recycling ecosystem that will ultimately feed into our PCR and packaging requirements.